going to start this talk today by doing the one thing that you should absolutely never do in starting a talk. I'm going to make an assumption. I'm going to make the bold, leap of faith assumption that everybody in this room is familiar with one specific thing. Houses. Houses. Many of us live in them, and if we don't, we see them every day, and we're very familiar with them. But what if we weren't? Imagine for a second that you're an alien, and you arrive on an alien planet that's exactly like Earth. Except on this planet, there's one big difference. There's no buildings, no houses, and certainly no blueprints for creating them. On this planet, you would have to start from absolutely nothing and simply ask yourself, what should a place that someone lives in be? You'd have to totally invent the concept of a house. Believe it or not, that's the exact position I was in a little bit over a year ago. Now, I know what you're thinking. No, I'm not an alien, as far as I know, but I was using an alien way of thinking. A way of thinking that led me to ask that exact question. What should a place that someone lives in be? And when I tell this story, and I mention that question to people, they often give me a weird look, kind of like the look some of you are giving me right now. And they'll inevitably ask, why don't you just use the word house? Why not ask, what should a house be? Well, the problem with using the word house is that if my assumption's correct, and we all are familiar with what a house is, then naturally there's certain assumptions we'll all make about what a house should be. So you might think a house should be a place that has a roof, or windows, or walls, and those seem like safe assumptions. Most of the houses I've seen have those things. But other people would make other assumptions, like a house should be a certain number of square feet, or a house should be built on a concrete slab-on-grade foundation. And those assumptions, I think, are a little bit more problematic. So that's why I don't use the word house. And rather than starting with any assumptions, I decided to start with 4 principal words, 4 building block words that comprise the foundation of my answer to the question, what should a place that someone lives in be? All right, so what should it be? That's the big question, right? First, it should be affordable. It doesn't matter how amazing or luxurious a place we live is, if we can't afford to build it or live in it, what's the point? No point. Second, it should be comfortable. The place we live is by definition the place that we live because we're going to spend a lot of time there. So it should be somewhere that makes us feel good, somewhere we're happy. Third, it should be efficient. The materials we use to build the place we live should work together as a well-oiled machine that operates as greater than the sum of its parts. And finally, the place we live should be sustainable. It should be somewhere that lasts not decades, but centuries. And it should have as little as possible an effect on its surrounding environment. So I started with those 4 principal words, and then I had to build up to the more specific. I had to figure out, what am I actually going to build? And so I started doing some research. And the way I did my research was I went to the amazing, venerable website, google.com, and I typed in affordable housing. And a bunch of stuff came up. And I started reading all about affordable housing. And then I typed in comfortable housing, and efficient housing, and sustainable housing, and I started reading about all these alternative housing ideas. And I was looking for something that fit my core principles of what a place someone lives in should be. And there was one thing I found in particular that I thought fit very well with those principles. And it was called natural building. Natural building is using materials you can find in your local environment to create extremely affordable, environmentally friendly, and personal buildings. When I first found natural building, I was reading about people living off the grid who were creating their own houses out of essentially materials they found in their backyard for crazy, ridiculously low amounts of money, like $50,000. And I thought to myself, this is too good to be true. There's got to be some sort of catch here. These houses, not only are they better for the environment, but they cost less? Why aren't all of us doing this? Why aren't we all living in these houses? And so I took a deep dive into natural building. I read everything I could find about it. I spent 2 months just learning as much as I could about natural building, just looking for what I was missing. And eventually, I started reaching out to professional natural builders and just asking them, what am I missing? What's the catch here? And after all of that, I determined that there was no catch. There was no catch. There were specific reasons why natural building had not reached widespread adoption, but I understood what those were, and I had a plan for addressing them. And so in April of 2016, my friend Steve and I started Y Innovations, a nonprofit organization with the goal of using natural building techniques to create affordable and environmentally friendly housing for those in need around the world. So the first project we did as an organization was this past summer. It was with a natural building technique called Cob Construction. Cob's essentially, it's clay, sand, and straw. It's the same material that adobe bricks are made out of. It's used in parts of the southwestern United States and parts of Africa. And we used Cob to build this 200 square foot storage facility. It was an amazing first project. We learned a lot. We had 40 or so student volunteers come out and work on it with us, but it was just a start. And now we're seeking to do what we originally set out to do and build our first naturally built home for a homeless family. And so for the past 6 months or so, we've been engaged as an organization in the planning process for this home. We're working with a local architect and structural engineer, and they're doing the amazing, incredible job of taking our crazy, idealistic vision for what this place someone lives in should be and turning them into actual decipherable building plans. It's essentially magic. We've also partnered with an organization called Family Promise, who works with families experiencing homelessness to help identify and address some of the underlying problems that so often contribute to homelessness. We've also had the privilege of working with several professional natural builders and consulting with them in the design process of this home. It's been an absolutely incredible, inspiring process for me to see our vision start to come to reality, and I'm proud and excited to be able to say that after presenting a rough draft of our building plans to my local building permit officials, we are on track in 2018 to receive a building permit to build the first ever naturally built home in Delaware. Awesome. And so now what I want to do is share with you my vision, my image for what this house is going to be. And I want to show you that this isn't just a feel-good story. Sure, I want you to leave this event, leave this talk, feeling good about yourself, feeling good about the world, like we can all go out and make a difference. But beyond that, I want you to leave thinking that natural building is a more effective way of building than a lot of the traditional methods that we use today. And the way that I want to attempt to convince you of that is by going through our 4 principles we laid out for what a place someone lives in should be and comparing them to more traditional methods in order to hopefully show you just how affordable, just how comfortable, just how efficient, and just how sustainable what we're building is. And so the way that I'm going to do that is by starting with a brief overview of what the house is. It's a 600 square foot, 1-story, ranch-style building. The main exterior walls are built with something called straw bale construction. Straw bale construction, it's basically stacking straw bales, one on top of each other. I'm sure you can imagine there's a couple little details that go into it, but that's the short version. The interior walls and the floors will all be built with Cob. As far as our first principle, affordability, the total cost to build this home is under $25,000. That includes all appliances, all furnishings, everything. $25,000. You don't find single-family homes on the market for $25,000 very often. There's 2 principal reasons why we were able to create such an affordable home. First, our home's much smaller than the traditional home. At 600 square feet, it's 2,000 square feet less in size than the average newly constructed single-family home. In the past 40 years, average housing sizes in the United States have increased by 1,000 square feet. Think about that. Our houses are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. At Y Innovations, we're challenging that trend for the simple reason that the smaller your home is, the less material you use to build it, the less expensive your home is. So that's the first reason why we're able to create such an affordable home. The second reason is that not only are we using less material, but that material in and of itself is actually less expensive than traditional building materials. That's one of the main advantages of natural building. The raw material cost to build this home, just the materials that actually go into building it, is $10,000. That comes out to $19 per square foot. For some perspective, the average in the United States is $130 per square foot. So not only are we using less material, but that material is almost seven times less expensive as traditional building materials. That's how you get a super affordable home. For our second principle, comfort, this home is going to have all the modern amenities of a traditional home. Heat, running water, electricity, toaster ovens for your Pop-Tarts in the morning, if you're into that kind of thing. My brother loves his Pop-Tarts. We're not creating substandard housing. That's a very important point. But beyond that basic level of human comfort, there's something very personal, very homey about naturally built buildings. This photo here is from a building that a man by the name of Chris McClellan built. Chris is a professional natural builder from Ohio, and what he did here is he took glass bottles and sculpted them in a cob wall in the shape of a sunflower to create a sunflower bottle glass window. How cool is that? You don't see that in most homes, or at least I don't. Maybe you do. And maybe this isn't the particular thing you like for your home. Maybe you don't like sunflowers. Maybe there's a different flower you like daffodils or something. I don't know. The point is, natural building is something you can personalize, customize to you, so that your home can reflect who you are. I think that's very cool. For our third principle, efficiency, our main objective here is a home that is sustainably affordable in the long run. And the way we achieve that is with energy efficiency and with those straw bale exterior walls. The really nice thing about straw bale walls is that they're really good insulators. Insulation properties in construction are measured in something called R values, with higher R values correlating to walls that do a better job insulating. In a home in this climate, traditionally a wall R value of around R20 is considered really good, meets all code requirements. The walls we're building have R values in excess of R40. What that means is less money spent on heating and cooling every single month. Who doesn't like that? And beyond that, the heating and cooling system we're using is a heat pump. And the really nice thing about heat pumps is that they use electricity to transfer heat energy that already exists in the air outside the home, and then they pump it back into the home. This natural convection process is both more affordable and environmentally friendly than some traditional processes that rely on burning fuels. For our final principle, sustainability, the biggest problem that I see with sustainability in traditional housing construction is the use of concrete. Concrete is made of cement, and cement is created through a process of heating shale and limestone at temperatures in excess of 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a process that releases 1.8 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere every single year. We know the effect that excess carbon dioxide emissions are having on our environment. We have scientists telling us that once we reach a certain level of global warming, we can't go back. So it's time for us to take personal responsibility for the effect that what we're building has on the environment. That's why this building uses no concrete. Not on the foundation, not anywhere. Instead, we borrow a concept from pole barn construction called natural rubble trench foundations. They use no concrete, and it actually turns out to be more cost-effective once you factor in the price of cement mixing. So that's my story. That's what I'm doing. But I don't want to fool you. A little over a year ago, I wasn't doing any of this kind of stuff. You can ask my parents. They're right over there. Ask them during intermission. I wasn't doing this stuff. I was just doing your normal teenage stuff. I just asked the question, and I relentlessly pursued the answer to that question. I still do, because I truly believe the answers can help people. So I would challenge you today, no matter how old you are, no matter what stage of life you're in, if you're here, it's because you believe you can make a difference. So I would challenge you to let your natural curiosity guide you. in asking questions that truly fascinate you. Seek out the answers to those questions relentlessly, and always remember to ask yourself, how can what I'm learning be used to help either society at large or my community move forward? And then finally, don't make the mistake I made at the beginning of this talk. Don't make assumptions. If you do those things, not only will you change your mindset, but you just might change the world. Thank you.